Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Board of Selectmen's meeting of November 25th, 2019. Ask everyone to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and please remain standing after the Pledge of Allegiance for a moment of silence, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Again, ask everyone to pause for a moment of silence for Gene Bumpus. Gene Bumpus Willisky of Abington passed away suddenly on November 5th. Gene had retired after serving 40 years to Abington Town Hall Assessors and the Treasurer Department. She was a part of the VFW Women's Auxiliary, Abington Fire Department, Abington Library Friends, Abington Senior Center, Old Town News, and many other functions. Being a true Abingtonian, she will always be remembered as one of the best huggers. I'm a hugger, she would say, whether at Town Hall, the bank, Trukey's, or other stores she shopped. You could always get a hug from her. She adored and loved many people in her life and hugged them all. You could always catch her rooting for the Red Sox and the Patriots teams and yelling at the TV. When not watching a game, she loved shopping a lot, taking care of her great-grandkids, laughing with her family, friends, and extended family. So again, one moment of silence for Jeannie. Thank you. Okay, thank you very much.
Mr. Chairman, Gene Bumpus was always the first customer every Saturday morning at Trukey's, and it was a great way to start the day, so she will be missed.
She worked with me when I was the treasurer collector here in Abington. She was a great lady.
Yep.
Very, very shocked. Public announcements, I'll make mine first. There was a change on the agenda, so everyone knows. We have addressed that. That's why there was a change, a revision to the agenda. We're going to talk about having a meeting with Lisa Bezanson. We got information on the 4th and the 5th that we needed, that we asked her to provide. She did. We will look at it as selectmen, and town council will look at it, and then we will go from there. So I want to make that announcement right up front so everybody knows that. Public announcements. Kevin?
I don't have any.
No? Jim?
I'm all set.
Ken?
A couple of things. Congratulations to the Community Food Packaging Group under the leadership of Chairman Jeff Stone. Over 500 volunteers on Saturday packed the high school gymnasium and packaged over 200,000 meals to distribute amongst the South Shore, the hungry. So thank you to all of the youth groups, the Lions, the Girl Scouts, the youth groups, the sports teams. They did a great job. I want to remind everybody, this Saturday, November 30th, is Small Business Saturday. A lot of times we approve a lot of licenses and we say to the people, good luck, but this is a good way, it's an opportunity to support local businesses. It could be as simple as having lunch or filling your gas tank, or maybe visit a local business for holiday shopping. Besides the tax benefits we receive, the majority of the time the owners are local and they appreciate the support. And lastly, coming up is Abington Celebrates. And hopefully it will be a true celebration weekend. I think because Tim's going to talk about something that's happening on one of the days. But Friday, December 6th, the 30th annual Ugly Sweater Ball at the Legion, sponsored by the Lions Club. Saturday, December 7th, Pup Pictures with Santa. That's tough to say. At Abington Senior Center from 8 to 11. Holiday Greens and Craft Fair at the UCC, 10 to 2. This is kind of a new event. It's kind of neat. The Eager Beaver Summer Counselors are going to have a kids break babysitting. So from noon to 3, you can drop the kids off with a suggested donation of a gift from the Senior Giving Tree at the police station. And they're going to have a Christmas movie games to keep the kids busy for 3 hours so you can go out shopping or whatever it is you have 3 hours to do it in. History exhibit at the Dyer. And then, of course, the Christmas tree lighting from 3 to 7 at Island Grove, and Sunday candlelight Christmas concert again at the UCC from 4 to 5. So more information on Facebook, Abington Celebrates. So hopefully we'll see you there, and hopefully it will be just light snow and nothing more than that. So
That it, Ken?
That's it.
Tim, do you have anything?
Yes, the Board of Selectmen would like to congratulate the Abington High School football team, which was recently crowned as the Division VII Eastern Massachusetts champions after their 33-22 victory over Greater Lawrence this past weekend. The Green Wave will now move on to play in the state championship game at Gillette Stadium against Leicester High School on Saturday, December 7th. Game time will be 9 a.m. at Gillette, and all fans and members of Green Wave Nation are urged to be there in Foxborough to cheer on Coach Kelleher and the Green Wave team. Abington High School will also host a 109th annual Thanksgiving Day football game this Thursday morning at 10 a.m. The Green Wave will play the Whitman Hanson Panthers at Abington's Memorial Field. Spectators are urged to arrive early to avoid long lines at the ticket booth. Best of luck to the Green Wave at both the Thanksgiving Day game and the state championship on December 7th.
All right, very good. Congratulations to Abington, great job. All right, public comment? Okay, public appointments. The Board of Selectmen will hold a joint hearing with the Board of Assessors on the fiscal 2020 tax classification on Monday, November 25th, 2019 at 6:35 p.m. in the Carter Hearing Room, Abington Town Office, 500 Glenowitz Way, Abington, Mass. Municipalities have several options in distributing the tax levy among taxpayers under property tax classification. Interested taxpayers may present written or oral information on this matter during the hearing. So we will open up that meeting.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Yolanta Briffett, and I'm the new Deputy Assessor. I will be doing your presentation tonight. So let's start with the town budget process. Every year, those present at our annual town meeting vote to approve the upcoming budget figures. The money to fund the budget comes from multiple sources, like local receipts, revenues, and state aid. The remaining money comes from the levy. The levy refers to the amount of money a community can raise through real estate and personal property taxes. The classification hearing does not change the amount of money which can be raised through the levy. A split rate will not increase revenue for the town. A split rate shifts some of the tax burden from all residential properties onto all commercial, industrial, and personal property accounts. Since you need to raise a fixed levy amount, the valuations and tax rates move in opposite directions. If the total town value increases, the tax rate will decrease. If the total town value decreases, the tax rate will increase. However, if overrides, special capital exclusions, or debt exclusions are approved, it is likely the tax rate will increase no matter what. Here is our outstanding debt schedule overview. We have new middle high school, new police station, senior center purchase, and high school windows and doors. If you look at the last column on the right, it shows the fiscal year completion dates. Community Preservation Act. The CPA does not increase the tax rate. It is a separate surcharge. It does not go towards the payment of our real estate tax bills or the general fund. For fiscal year 19, the town collected approximately $397,378 in CPA funds. The Board of Selectmen hold a classification hearing each year to determine if the levy gets divided evenly through a single tax rate or if the tax burden gets shifted between classes. Here are the current class percentages. Residential is 88.5512, commercial is 8.6978, industrial is 0.344, and personal property is 1.9166. Here are the historical class percentages from 2004 to 2020. 2020, the residential percentage is 88.55, commercial 8.69, industrial 0.83, and personal property 1.91. The shift. Should the selectmen choose to shift some of the burden to the commercial, industrial, and personal property, the shift may not be more than 100% of the original burden. Given this restriction, our minimum residential share with max shift is 82.8268, and our maximum CIP share with max shift is 17.1732. At the original limit, the share of the levy to be raised by each class would be as follows. Residential 88.5512, CIP 11.4488, resulting in a single tax rate of $16.97. At the maximum, the residential would be 82.8268, resulting in a residential tax rate of $15.87, and the CIP of 17.1732, resulting in a commercial, industrial, and personal property tax rate of $25.45. Fiscal year 19 tax rate is $17.39. Fiscal year 20 proposed tax rate is $16.97. This is a change of 42 cents. The averages. The current value of the average single-family home is $384,955. The taxes would be $6,532.69. Currently, 61.38% of all the single-family homes are valued at or below the average. The current value of the commercial property is $861,052. The taxes would be $14,612.05. Currently, 77.67% of all the commercial properties are valued under $1 million. This is the impact of the shifts. The left column shows the shifts from 1.00 to 1.50. The next column shows the residential tax, what the residential rate would be, the residential difference, and the residential percentage change. And the same thing for the commercial tax, commercial rate, commercial difference, and commercial percentage change. As you can see, the highest shift would result in commercial paying approximately 50% more in taxes, while residentials would save just under 6.5%. Here is some split rate information. In fiscal year 19, 111 communities had a split tax rate. 93.69% of those communities have split the tax rate for more than 10 years. 90%, 0.99%, have split the tax rate for more than 18 years. The average residential percentage for the split rate communities is 79%. The average residential percentage for single rate towns is 88.78%. Of the 27 cities and towns in Plymouth County, 5 have a split rate. The average residential percentage of those 5 communities is 80.22%. And some final bits of information. When determining values, we are governed by the Department of Revenue regulations. We must analyze qualified sales from the last full calendar year and adjust accordingly. For fiscal year 2020 values, we must use sales from calendar year 2018. Property values get adjusted after the sales analysis each year. Property values are submitted to and certified by the Department of Revenue each year. Property values may change as a result of building permit visits, sales inspections, random selection, or the DOR requirement to visit the property at least once in a 9-year period. In closing, the Board of Assessors voted to recommend that the Board of Selectmen adopt a single tax rate. Now I ask the Board of Selectmen to vote, please.
Comments, questions from the board?
Just a statement that things have pretty much stayed consistent. I mean, we're almost basically the same percentages we were in 2004
Correct.
for residential, so 88.5. And it looks like, I've always heard the 20% number, you know, that if, you know, residential gets down to 80%, 20% for commercial, then maybe it's time to look at it, but we're still, we're a little more than halfway there, so, I mean, I kind of agree with the recommendation. Unfortunately, I love to ease the tax burden, but, you know, I also don't want to hurt the businesses in town, especially when you talk about the businesses, the majority of them are valued at under $1 million, so they're small businesses. So, you know, there's a few box stores in Abington, but not a lot, so. I think Rockland is one of the communities that has a split tax rate, but they have a lot of businesses with the hotels and a lot of industry and stuff like that, so.
It's actually Carver, Middleborough, West Bridgewater, Brockton, and Hanover.
You know, so Rockland doesn't have a split tax rate? Wow, I thought they did. So,
Anyone else from the board? Anyone from the public? Mr. Collins.
Hi, Rick Collins, 74 Orange Street. I'm a member of the planning board, but I'm not speaking on behalf of the planning board. I'm speaking to myself as a private resident. One of the couple of numbers that we saw that I think is important to highlight as part of these discussions so people understand when they open their tax bill the next time that they come out, they understand what they're seeing, why they're seeing it. One of the numbers we heard was that the total commercial tax classification is 8.69%. If I'm not mistaken, is that correct?
yes.
So at the beginning of the decade, that number was over 11%. So what we're seeing, so two things are happening, however. One, we are losing commercial tax property values, either through commercial tax land that's now becoming residential, or, and this is the weird part that people don't understand, commercial tax properties can depreciate, meaning they can go down in value or assessed value. Am I mistaken in that, understanding that?
Houses also
Houses can, do they?
can. By computation, yes, was reflected.
So The problem is that we have successful businesses in this town, very successful businesses in this town, where the valuation has gone down. And that's that's not a reflection of what this board does or what the Board of Assessors do. That's just how the laws and assessing is done. So it's just a phenomenon that doesn't happen very often in residential property values. So what we see is that the growth of the value of commercial properties in the town of Abington has been growing significantly slower than the residential property values. Am I mistaken on that?
No, you're not.
Correct. So the effect that has, however, is that the amount of the total tax bill residential property taxpayers pay is increasing. It's not that we're raising taxes on them as too much. It's not that the budget is growing too much. It's that the burden is being shifted more onto residential taxpayers and residential properties. That's why homeowners feel it much more than commercial property tax values. And this is why we need to address the commercial property issue we have in this town, which is we're not growing our commercial tax base. And one way I would strongly encourage this, even if we just grow it by 1%, that's property tax relief to residential homeowners if we can grow the commercial tax base, which is why I would strongly encourage the town to consider either a town planner or an economic development director as part of the budget. Because that will, if we want to get tax relief to homeowners, we grow our commercial tax base, and that's the way that we do it. And I know the town has a lot of budgetary needs, but this is one that I think results in an investment in the town and will grow commercial tax base. Here's one quick anecdote. I heard from an attorney for a potential marijuana retail shop. They decided to pass on Abington because they were told by someone in the town, not a town employee, but a landlord, there are no retail spaces open in the town of Abington, which is not true. But there's also nobody in the town hall that they can really go to get this information and find out what the story is. So I think we need to have that one person that businesses can call that lets people know Abington is open for business and we can grow our commercial tax base. That way we can start to give residential property tax owners a little bit of relief. Thank you.
Thanks, Richard. Any other public comment?
I'd just like to piggyback on what he just said. That was one of the goals that we brought up, and I think one that I moved forward, and I think the board endorsed, that we should try to, maybe not a full-time planner, but work with other towns to try to get a planner. I think it's important,
Yeah, I think we were hoping to split one with another town.
Exactly. So
Right.
we should really work on that. So.
That is true.
If there's no, I'll make a motion.
Anyone want to make a motion, Ken?
I'll make a motion to close the public hearing first, if no one else.
Second, all right, motion been made and seconded to close the public hearing with no other comment. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed?
I would make a motion that we recommend that the Board of Selectmen adopt a single tax rate upon the recommendation of the Board of Assessors, so.
I'll second.
All right, any further discussion? If not, all those in favor of the motion?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Okay. Unanimous. All right, thank you,
Thank you.
appreciate it. All right, action discussion items, approval of the September 23rd, 2019, October 15th, 2019 executive session minutes, and November 4th, 2019 open session minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve the September 23rd, 2019, October 15th, 2019 executive session minutes and the November 4th, 2019 open session minutes. You guys read them.
Do we have a second? Not yet.
Read them at home. You're tired, you can do that.
Did you get that?
I did not yet.
I will second.
You will second. All right. Second by Tim. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. All righty. Request for St. Patrick's Day Parade to be held on Sunday, March 15th, 2020. From the Abington St. Patrick's Day Parade Committee, the Abington St. Patrick's Day Parade Committee would like to ask your permission to hold its 41st Annual St. Patrick's Day Parade on Sunday, March 15th, 2020 at 1 p.m. Current plans call for the parade to begin on Washington Street in Abington Center. The route will follow Washington Street to Adams Street, to Route 58, to Route 139, taking a right onto North Ave to Railroad Street. The parade will turn right onto Railroad Street to the New England Art parking lot to disband. We hope that the Board of Selectmen will be able to participate and help us to make this St. Patrick's Day Parade a big success. As always, we wish to thank you for your consideration and assistance. Sincerely, Jack Bailey. Jack, or any from the committee available? No one? All right.
Being probably the only one at this table that was in the very first parade 41 years ago, I would like it, make a motion. It was the driving parade. I took a lunch break from Trookies to be in it. But it was.
I was one.
Wow. I won't be in from funny to disturbing. Okay. I will make a motion to approve the St. Patrick's Day Parade on Sunday, March 15th at 1 p.m.
Second it.
Second, any further discussion?
Yeah, before we vote, just a reminder, that's long-standing policy that the new member of the Board of Selectmen buys the candy.
That's right.
So,
Oh, I forgot about that.
the newest member,
There
yeah.
you go.
It's a lot of candy.
It's a lot of candy.
It's a lot.
Don't cut it.
And don't throw it too hard at people. All right, motion and second, any further comment? None. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the ayes have it. All righty. Request for appointment to Town Manager's Search Committee, Brian Solomini and Rick Collins. What do we have, one opening, right?
Yes.
Okay. Brian available? Brian? Yeah, Rick? Oh, there you are. I didn't see you back there.
Hope there's not a fire anywhere else in town.
There's one in Town Hall, we're well protected.
There we go.
Hi, Rick Collins, 74 Orange Street. I am expressing my interest in the open position on the Town Manager Search Committee. I sent in some information. Quick summary is I have 20-plus years professional, private, public sector experience working in public affairs, communications, public outreach. I've professionally dealt with more than a dozen municipal executives, ranging from executive secretaries to town administrators, town managers, mayors. So I have an understanding of how they all work and how they relate differently to boards and departments across the town. I understand the role town managers play in setting up the town budget, running department heads, not in terms of the sense of I've done the job, but just in terms of I understand the role, how they work, their responsibilities. In addition, I've been on hiring search committees, I've run search committees, I've done hiring, I've done job requisitions, led interviews, and I think that'd be a good addition. Some of the other things I'm involved with in town is I'm chairman of the Ames-Knoll Master Plan Committee, which we're very excited to have a final plan for you very soon. In addition, I'm the registrar for Abington Youth Soccer and the parent of 2 kids currently in Abington Public Schools. So if I can answer any questions, I'm more than happy to.
It's safe to assume you're not applying for that position, are you?
No.
Okay, good.
Anybody have any questions for Mr. Collins?
I don't. I know you filled out all the questionnaire and, put your attributes on there, so it's very good, so, no problem.
And we spoke to him originally when we were forming the committee, too.
Yep.
Nothing's changed since then? You haven't been arrested of any felonies?
Nothing I'm aware of.
Okay.
Again, I want to offer Brian, is Brian here at all? Not, he did answer the application, but he's not here, unfortunately, but. No? entertain a motion.
I'll make the motion to appoint Rick Collins to the Town Manager Search Committee.
I'll second.
Second, any further discussion? All right. If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Unanimous. Rick, welcome aboard. Thank you.
Your chairman's right in the front row, you can talk to her. Oh, you're not chairman? Oh, I'm sorry.
The
Vice
chairman's,
chairman.
in the back
Oh, that's
row.
right, that's right. There you go. Get his email. Thank you.
Let's see. Number 4, request for appointment to the Historical Commission, Joseph Fahn. Am I saying that correctly? Joseph, how are you? Yeah, oh, sure.
Please,
Yes,
wow.
we were gonna have you come up.
Nobody's usually eager to grab the microphone, this is great.
So, you get to let it go.
My name is Joseph Fahn, 146 Isabel Street. I lived in Abington for almost all of my life. My background is I have a degree in like business, but also another degree in art history. So I do have like a really, really big interest in like preservation and understanding of history. So want to carry that. My day job, I do a lot of event planning, a lot of like management, and then just a lot of communication with the public. So what I really want to do is just spread a lot of like Abington's history to people who, I don't know, are my age, around that, and want to listen. So that's why I'm here. I'm a quick learner.
Excellent. Well, that's very good. Any questions of Mr. Fahn? Am I saying that correctly?
Yep, perfect.
I know the board had lost a couple members, so it needs some rejuvenation, so thank you for stepping up, it should be good. So
I think that's very good. Very important.
I would make a motion to appoint Joseph Fahn to the Historical Commission.
Second it.
Second, any further discussion? No? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Unanimous. Joseph, thank you very much.
Thank you.
We appreciate it.
While we've, Affordable Housing Committee has 3 openings, Commission on Disabilities has 1, Community Preservation Committee has 1, I think this is accurate, yes, November 7th. Historical Commission has 2, but I think we just appointed 1, Housing Partnership 2, Sage 6, and Town Manager Search Committee no longer has an opening.
All right. Number 5, request to amend the building permit fee schedule. Marshall here, or?
No, he's not here. Mr.
He's not
Chairman,
here.
No. As you see, he did provide a letter requesting specifically just one change. Currently, the building permit fees state that that a refund can be up to 75% minimum refund. He's looking to just simply change it to an, up to 75% maximum return of fee. And this is, as he states, because of all the time and effort that goes into reviewing building permit applications, a substantial amount of which do not, either unsuccessful or require further information and may be withdrawn for a period of time. It doesn't reduce the amount of time and effort and staff time that goes into that review. So this is his request, as stated in his letter.
I just have a question on this. I know when when I was on the Board of Health, we raised the fees, we had to have a public hearing. Is that required of this? It's not.
How do they determine how much of a fee they get refunded?
I think it's simply a percentage of the time and effort. They more or less know how much percentage of time it takes to do certain functions, so that's what they would base it upon.
Rick, I got a question too. When we set the fees for any department, we have, it's almost like a public hearing, or for budget purposes anyway, isn't it? That, and I mean, I know this is a refund, but still.
Yeah, there's no requirement for that. Certainly, if you wish to do that, we could schedule that.
Well, yeah, you can make a buck.
There's nothing pressing in terms of time on this. So if that's what you prefer to do, we'll
Don't make it to you.
talk to Marshall and we'll set that up if that's what you'd like to do.
I know that our board voted this on March 28, 2016. Now, I can remember the parade 41 years ago, but I can't remember that vote, if it was a public hearing or not, so.
We can, as Rick said, we can wait if you want to wait and have Marshall in, or,
I'd like to have him in, just to, for two reasons. One, just to, let's not rush this, make sure that it doesn't require a public hearing, but also I'd like to hear him explain, because it's a little confusing,
I'd like to hear a little more on it too,
Yeah,
how he's gonna get to those numbers.
Yep. Do you want a motion to continue?
just ask him to
No,
come.
it's not a public hearing,
It's not a
so
hearing, you're.
there's no need to.
Put it
We'll
back
re-
on the
we'll
agenda.
reschedule it. He's
We're gonna add it back, Rick, right?
Sure.
Okay, thank you. Do that, please.
Excuse me, will that be a public hearing?
We don't know. It'll be public because he'll be here. He'll be at the Selectmen's meeting. We'll ask him in. So I guess that would be a public hearing. Pardon me?
Residents could weigh in at that.
I would think so, yeah. Yep. You're welcome. All right, 6, formation of steering committee to review use of the town-owned lot on Glenowitz Way. Kevin, this is something that you wanted on the agenda, correct?
Yeah, I did, I know we've been kind of working on it, we've heard from Superintendent Schaefer about it, and the lot's sitting empty, so, I'd like to try to get something together to kind of, a steering committee to kind of guide us on what to do here. I mean, I personally would like to see some sort of, like a first responders memorial park there or something like that, but, I wanted to get your thoughts, the board's thoughts, and see if we could maybe put something together, a committee to guide this, maybe put something in motion.
Steering committee made up of the Selectmen, or do you want to open up a public?
No, I would like
Tough
to,
getting volunteers now.
yes, I would like to at least get, maybe a representative from each, the police and fire, and then maybe residents too, if we could get 5 residents or 7 residents on this. At least put it out there and see what we can get. What's the board's thoughts?
I think it's a good idea. I mean, certainly if you're gonna need any, whatever funding, you'll need a committee to plan fundraising and, whether you're looking at CPA funds, as I know there's a lot of legwork there that a committee would be helpful.
Mr.
More hands
Chairman,
make light work, right?
I know that was, member of the planning board suggested to me that, someone from land use planning board, someone from the school administration or department, as well as maybe someone from the historical commission. Those may be good additions to our membership for a committee like that.
All good ideas.
I think it's a great idea that we start moving forward on it. We can figure out who and what people we want on there, how many we want on there.
So,
Go ahead, no, go ahead.
so if we open a committee, Rick, what were the ones you said?
Oh, suggested a member of the planning board,
Yep.
a member of the school, someone chosen by the school department, and perhaps someone from the historical commission. Those
You
are
were thinking-
some of the suggestions.
Police and fire, Kevin?
Yeah, I want police and fire. I agree
Yeah.
with historical if we're gonna be making, if it's a memorial type park, and it'd be nice.
And one selectman?
Volunteer.
We could have.
So that would be
Select
6, and then
With the
that-
selectmen, it'd be 6.
that would be 6 appointed, and then, what do you think, 4? Maybe 3 or 4?
3 or 5, I
You
would
want
think.
to do an odd number, or?
Yeah, so maybe 3. I don't know how big you want. You're thinking the committee, but that's a big committee as is.
Yeah, it is. Put all in, so, yeah, we could shoot for 3 residents. I mean, if we could get 5, that'd be great.
Mr. Chairman? I think I actually brought up the idea of maybe a first responders park, but it's our board that decides what happens to that property. And I know there was talk at one point about the school might want to use it for, I heard a street hockey court, I heard a volleyball, beach volleyball. So before our board is the one that makes the decision. Before we form a committee, with a goal in mind, I'd like to maybe just give it another meeting, and if anybody, would like to see this property developed into something else, it might be multi-use, it might be able to do a park for responders, but I just like, unless the board wants to vote and say, let's put a, first responders
No,
memorial
my
there.
impression was that this committee would come up with ideas. maybe Kevin, you threw out the first responder park, you were just,
Yeah, I mean, that's what I'd like to see.
that's what
I
you'd
mean,
like to personally see, but.
Right, and Ken has mentioned that before.
Right, but I was thinking
But I
this
think- right.
committee would be a nice balance of,
And Ken, and I agree with you, we know that we make that final decision, but I wouldn't mind having a steering committee, instead of waiting for another meeting to have people come in, I wouldn't mind having a steering committee to formalize one and
So
go
you
from
want a
there.
steering
That's-
committee to determine the best use of that property?
yes.
Yeah,
That's fair.
I mean, putting in the people that we said, the police, the fire, the school, historical,
Planning.
and three to five residents, I would stay with three, but
Then add the recreation department too, maybe.
Yeah, Park and Rec.
Yeah, that's fine. And their goal would be to determine a use for it.
To come up with recommendations.
Recommendations,
to
right.
bring to
Okay,
us.
and then depending upon what happens, you know, if they wanted to stay on after that, maybe we could have them be in charge of the project itself, if, something like that.
It could morph into a fundraising committee or
Not a fundraising committee, but,
whatever we need.
Building committee, or whatever you
Yes.
want to call it.
okay, that's fine.
Yeah, I'd be fine with that.
So if we add Park and Rec, you want to change that to 4 residents or 2?
I'd leave it at three.
That would be,
We want to make it an odd number for votes.
Does that include a member of the planning board?
Yeah.
yeah.
Or just for
Park
other
and
notes
Rec,
here?
planning board, school department, historical, police, fire, selectmen. And I would suggest 4 residents. We'll bring it up to 11.
As a big committee.
It's a big committee.
We doing a member of the school board on it, or we doing a representative from the school?
From the school department, yeah.
Department.
Remember that, the more people you have on the committee, the harder it is to get a meeting together. So
It's hard to
just
come up with, yeah,
It becomes unwieldy, so that's all, just
it's true.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
less is more sometimes.
We could do 2 residents, and now you're down to 9.
I still like the idea of the first responder park.
Yeah?
But, you know, the land has been sitting empty. We did ask the school department, we asked Superintendent Schaefer about it.
Yeah,
He
you
really
didn't
didn't
have
have any
use for it.
suggestions really at this time, so rather than seeing it empty, you know, let's get something moving and get an identity on that land for the town. I think it'd be great.
Kevin, will you put that in form of motion, please? Want to?
Yeah, the form steering committee,
Yeah.
so this,
Just repeat yourself.
Second.
yeah, so, like to form a steering committee, make a motion to form a steering committee to review the use of the town on lot on Glenowitz Way.
Or to determine uses of the town on lot?
Yep, so make a motion for the formation of steering committee to review the use and uses, possible uses of the town-owned lot on Glenowitz Way.
And the following people on the committee. I want you to add that to your motion, so we'll have covered all.
Following committee, a representative from the police department, a representative from the fire department, a representative from the planning board, a representative from the school department, a representative from the historical committee, a representative from the board of selectmen, a representative from the recreation department, and 4 residents.
That's 11. I will second that motion as stated.
Okay. Any further discussion on that from the board? Ken, anything else?
Not a lot of members, but,
No. See how many we get, how many volunteers we get.
yep.
All right, no further discussion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. All right. Fire chief, update on the fire station feasibility study. Chief? Thank you. Thank you.
You can see we have quite our own crowd here again. There's a lot of interest within the department on this, this study as we've done it so far. And almost a year ago, we made a presentation here on our concerns about the current status and the location of both fire stations. And since that was the genesis of the support of this board, which I thank, and the support of the town meeting voters, which authorized and ultimately funded $100,000 for an independent feasibility study. That RFP went out in early July. We received 6 proposals back from companies that do this. They specialize in fire departments. And we awarded it to one company called Casel Booz Associates. I'm going to refer to them repeatedly as KBA. This is the large document that they sent us. It's very comprehensive on some of their projects, their team, what they do. They definitely fit the RFP that we set out, as well as a 90-day time period from when that begins. And this got a little bit of a later start, just mainly due to some legal questions with the contract and so forth in the summer months. But we got the official start pretty much in the middle of October, so we're into this. So tonight I'd like to give an update as to where we stand, and ultimately toward the end of this, I'm going to ask you to form another committee perhaps, hopefully not that large. Let's see where the town's going to go.
One person.
I did send you notes on this, but I'll just summarize. So the feasibility contract was awarded to Casel Booz Associates, KBA. They're out of Foxborough. We actually visited their facility last week when we were touring the Foxborough Fire Station that they also designed and built. They have a proven history of successful fire stations, both designing and building them in this area. And they also employ one of the nation's best firematic architects. Firematic is a term you're going to keep hearing. What that refers to, it's a specialized building for a fire station. It's a very unique building. We all think it's just, offices with an attached garage. Years ago, that's what it was. That's what we currently have. What we have discovered over the last several decades since our buildings were built is that there's a real need for the separation between the products of the combustion, the smoke, all those contaminants, as well as biohazard contaminants from the ambulance, and we want to separate those from the living spaces. There's actually airlocks now between the apparatus bay, the garage, if you will, and the living quarters. It's almost a hot, warm, and a cold zone. Cold being the office living space. A warm zone is a decon area, so we can clean our gear, ourselves, our equipment. And the hot zone, if you will, that's the equipment itself. That's where the diesel fumes are being generated. That's where, if we have any contaminants from the ambulance coming back from the hospital, the calls. So we want to clean that. Right now, we have a separation of simply a door. We literally have, the fire truck is 5 feet from the living area throughout both buildings. So we've discovered a lot of deficiencies that we're getting some professional studies done. They're actually beginning tomorrow, and I'll get into that, to see where it is that we stand. But a lot of the fire stations that we've begun to visit to collect some information on this, it's pretty eye-opening to see where we are with this and how far we need to go. We also received and were approved of the $30,000 state grant towards this project, and I'd like to thank, again, Representative Sullivan for securing these funds. I don't think she's here tonight, but she wasn't able to make it. But we definitely do have that to offset that cost, or if for some reason we went over it, we have that additional funds. Myself and my administrative assistant went to the Fire Academy a month ago. They had a special class utilizing these funds. It's a little confusing, this specific grant. We're ready to go. So that money is plugged in place, and we're all set for that. It's already been an account set up downstairs. The fire department has established an internal fire department station committee. We did this a couple of weeks ago. We're already organizing ourselves on this. This is voluntary members of the fire department. Most of them are here tonight. And we've organized this into the members of that committee, who include the entire department. They voted a chairperson and a recording secretary. We're really trying to organize this from the beginning. They are working very closely with myself as the fire chief with some of the initial space needs assessment from KBA to see what Abington Fire needs for space. And we're going to need this regardless of whether we do anything to the existing buildings or if the town decides to go to a new building. We need to understand, what does Abington Fire need? Because Abington Fire is different from Brockton, from Weymouth to Rockland. The equipment that we have, the size of the equipment that we have, the number of equipment that we have. Every town's different, every department's different, we all operate differently. So what we're beginning to do is hone in on what space needs we need, both for the apparatus and for the office spaces and for the living spaces. We're doing that now. We're meeting with an architect who's actually in upstate New York remotely with one of the local members of KBA, and we're basically building a station room by room as determined by the needs that we have. That's the first step. The next step would be to kind of take those individual rooms and spaces and put them together into a larger station and then see where we would go from there. So we're in that study period right now, and it's fairly comprehensive, as the gentleman can tell you on that committee. This committee has already begun some extensive studies and visits of recently built area fire stations. All of them thus far have been from KBA, but we're not limiting ourselves to KBA designed and built stations. Over the last couple of weeks, we've been to Randolph, Plainville, Foxborough, Mansfield, Hyannis, Carver. I think I'm missing something, but that's, that's the initial, the tours that we've begun, and that will continue. And those fire chiefs and members of those departments have been gracious. They're giving us great tours, and they're really telling us the good and the bad. So we're learning some great things what they did, and we're learning, I think if we go in this direction, some things that we're going to want to avoid. So we're already beginning to invest time and study, just internally in the fire department on that. That's gone very well. We're also seeing opportunities for increasing how our fire department, assuming we're able to build a newer station, can really increase our service for the town. We're really limited right now with the space limitations that we have. The town of Mansfield was an eye-opener because they have a central administrative office, and there's almost a reception area. There is a reception area in the center, and they staff that with senior citizen volunteers that help to work down their taxes. The fire department now in Abington, we simply don't have that space for that. We could be looking at hiring up to 5 Abington seniors if we had a space like that to do it. And it adds another person into the station. That helps with security, believe it or not. We're seeing how some towns are really working with their Board of Health, and they've come up with some really radical community medicine and outreach programs that we simply don't have the space for that right now. So we're not only looking at the physical plants at these stations, we're kind of seeing how they operate in different areas, not just the local South Shore areas. We're into Norfolk and Bristol and Barnstable counties to see how they're doing it. And we're always open to new ideas of doing things, and we're definitely getting a lot from this. So. Beginning tomorrow, actually, KBA is going to be beginning engineering studies of both Station 1 and Station 2. These are going to be very comprehensive, and they're going to look at, and I'm going to read off these areas, I apologize, determining how we comply with both current codes, safe practices, health concerns, those decontamination procedures I spoke about, protective clothing storage. This is another eye-opener for us. Our fire gear absorbs products of combustion as well as biohazards. There's times we'll wear our protective gear on car accidents, if you will. We could pick up body fluids or vehicle fluids and acids. And we try to wash that gear as best we can. We have one, it's called an extractor. It's a very fancy washing machine. It's Station 2, but we can only do 2 sets of gear at a time. So we do have 2 sets of gear, but in the meantime, the way we store that gear, usually it's literally going on a hook in the fire station, in the apparatus floor, feet away from the living quarters. All of these other fire stations and the new codes, as they comply, they're actually going in an airlocked room. They're going in a room with a neutral airspace so that any contaminants on that gear, or if they're off-gassing, they're actually getting evacuated to the outside. It's almost in like a hazardous materials chamber. And we don't have anything, our buildings simply don't have that at either station. That was eye-opening. We're getting a lot of good ideas on how to do that, and I think the members have really been open-minded as to where we're at now and where we probably should be. Security is another issue that we have now. I'm not going to get too deep into this for a number of reasons, but we're lacking security at our fire stations. IT compliance and capabilities, energy efficiency. I spoke last year, as you recalled, and there was a few embarrassing but true slides of having the heat on right under an open window or an air conditioner at Station 2. We've been doing that for years because it's a very uncomfortable building to try to get a comfort zone. There's 3 separate heating systems at Station 2 from when the building was designed because it was simply not enough and to retain the heat. We're seeing newer, much larger buildings than either of our stations have, and they're paying half the gas bill that I'm paying a year to heat both of our stations. The same with the electricity. That was rather sobering to see that, just how inefficient our buildings are, and a long-term cost savings if we were to really try to modernize or build a new station. We're wasting money right now. But we're going to have the study to show that, not just what we think our gut feeling is. Traffic issues. I'm not going to speak more. I've spoken at length before about Route 18 in that traffic that just keeps impinging on us. Safe fire apparatus clearances. This is backing into the fire station. One of the architects that came to our station basically said that our drivers are like surgeons because they're able to back that apparatus in. We literally have inches on all 3 sides, both the sides of the apparatus as well as the building height. We're down to ½ an inch on 2 of our pieces of apparatus right now. Accidents happen. It's going to happen at some point. It's a very tight, there's 0 tolerance on that. The newer stations we're looking at minimum 5 feet clearance on all sides, as well as 5 or 8 feet between apparatus and the floor once they're backed in. We literally have 4 inches between our apparatus. It's an old building and the apparatus is larger, but this is some of the things that we're seeing. In this feasibility study it'll document this once it's done. The employee restroom and the shower privacy, again, I spoke last year on this, and after seeing how most of the other departments do, everybody has individual restroom and shower facilities, so everything's gender neutral. We simply don't have that, nor do we have the space near the station to even begin that if we wanted to add one on. That's going to be an issue. ADA compliance, OSHA and hazardous conditions. Again, we are an OSHA state as of February of this year, and we have some catching up to do. I honestly don't believe that either one of our stations are going to score high on this assessment. I'm being honest with you, but again, this is why we're doing the feasibility study, to see just where we're at and what can be done to bring us up to where we need to be. We're also working with KBA to explore including, if we were to go to a new facility, including the building department and the Board of Health in this building, in this facility. A couple of reasons for that. We work very close with the building department now. I believe daily, our fire prevention officer, our deputy chief is downstairs working with the building department, working with the building inspectors out in the field, the wiring inspector, the gas inspector. We're trying to find spaces to lay out these building plans. We're getting more and more building plans. They're not stopping. We have major projects coming to this town, both residential and commercial. It is nonstop. We spend a lot of time working together. So a marriage, if we were able to get all 3 departments in one facility, would be great. There'd be a lot of shared, I could envision a shared conference room between the fire and the building department. They could probably use some space downstairs if we were to do it right. They could each have their own office on those sub-inspectors, as well as the Board of Health. The Board of Health, we do some work with them, and I think the way community medicine is going in the future, we're going to be doing a lot more, and it would be very beneficial if we were in the same building. I could envision, again, a shared space of perhaps like a medical room where if they want to have a visiting nurse give inoculations or whatever it is they do, we're right there next to them. If anything increased. It's a perfect marriage. Right now we share biohazard waste, the waste, if you will, and the same company picks them up. So they have to bring the sealed boxes from downstairs over to the fire station. We collect them at our station and before they're ultimately picked up by the vendor. If we were in the same building, that would be a lot cleaner because they have to go in a vehicle, as you can imagine. We don't know if this would be a reality, but if we're trying to plan on this, that if we were to combine those other 2 departments into this facility, not only would it benefit how we all operate, it would also increase this building's office space dramatically. You would have the Board of Health in the building department offices downstairs become vacant to however you chose to fill them with whatever space. So it's almost like you'd be getting future expansion of this building with another building if we were to do that. But we are exploring, looking at including them in it. We're also exploring, and we need, a training room or a training/community room. The fire department is desperate need of a training room. We've simply outgrown our space at the fire station. There's nowhere to park the vehicles. We do a lot of training at the police station when it's available. There's been a few times when the schedule can conflict. And we also have our apparatus. If we're going over to the police station to train, we're bringing our apparatus with us. Sometimes the parking's cumbersome. We were doing training in this room for our paramedic refresher for the entire month of November. We tried to be quiet. I hope that we were. We're homeless when it comes to training. The fire department needs a training room desperately. The next step is KBA is also going to begin to conduct a study of the North School site. The North School is a good site, but we're looking at others. They're going to determine the asbestos abatement needs. As you know, as both North and Center schools were determined to be I believe they were determined by the school surplus building committee, that both buildings should come down as soon as possible. This goes hand in hand with that. There is asbestos in both buildings in the soil, not necessarily throughout the building, but KBA is going to send their asbestos specialist to begin looking at that, so that we can give a price to the town on what it would cost to remove the North School. And Center School should pretty much mirror that, because they're twin buildings, little different. Center School's up in a hill. I don't know what that does to demolition. I'm sure it doesn't make it any easier, but they should be fairly close in cost on that. So if nothing else from this feasibility study, we should be able to give you an accurate cost estimate as to what it would cost to raise both buildings. We are looking at other sites as well, both the KBA and the Abington Fire Department. And there's a number of sites in town. We're not limiting ourselves just to North School. We like North School, but we're not limiting ourselves to that for a number of reasons. North School, the site is triangular in shape. It's a glorified traffic island, basically, and it's just about 2 acres altogether, we've discovered. Most newer fire station facilities, they're looking at anywhere from 4 to 5 acres. A little bit excessive, I think. I don't think we need as much of the landscaping that some of these other facilities have. It would be great to have, but we're very practical with this. We really think we could fit a building on that site, and the architect does as well. But we are looking at some other sites as well. I know that there's been an interest from what we have heard. Well, before I get to that, there aren't too many realistic sites available due to size and traffic limitations. And let me expand on that. Again, the size, there aren't too many large parcels of land in this area, because we also want to locate a new fire station if we were to do it within, to give us a response time that we can easily hop either up 18, 139, 58, to get around fairly easily. If we look at anything on Route 18, and there are a couple, but most of them are in wetlands. And if it's in a wetland on Route 18, that is going to drastically drive the cost of site work up. One of them is actually, one of the potential sites, we think, the Shemata-Tuscarawas goes right through that. It's the Shemata-Tuscarawas River. I said it.
I'm surprised again.
I would really mean that.
I'm impressed.
I don't believe anybody's going to do anything with that site. I know Abington, I know our pride here. We're simply not, I don't foresee the town doing that. As well as the cost that would be involved in any type of a wetlands. I really want to get off Route 18, and I'd really recommend getting off Route 18, because the expansion project now, the widening project, currently is ending at Route 139. But I've heard, not in writing, but I have heard from some MassDOT officials, they do plan on continuing that expansion to East Bridgewater. So from Route 139 to East Bridgewater, I do not have a time frame. If you drive through Whitman, you see they're already beginning the widening of the intersections. If I if we were to locate a fire station anywhere along Route 18, not only do we still have the traffic issues, but if 5 years from now, or 10 years from now, if we had a fire station there, and then they begin doing the same construction in front of that station, we would have nowhere to go. Right now, when they were doing work in front of the headquarters station, we temporarily relocated everything to Station 2 because we simply can't get past the ditches that they were digging in front of the apparatus bay. You know, we managed that, and that's going to happen at least 2 more times when they go to grade the road and when they go to ultimately pave the road. We know there's going to be at least 2 more times we'll be relocating our resources at the other station. If we were to build anywhere on Route 18, we're going to lose that capability in the future. The traffic is simply, the traffic flow is going to continue to increase. I'm not comfortable having anything on Route 18. I wouldn't recommend that. I also would not recommend having anything near the schools, any schools, for obvious reasons. However, I'm going to speak a little bit about that, because I know that there has been some interest, and we looked, seriously. There's been interest in trying to locate a fire station on Lincoln Boulevard, the old bank building, the Biz Place. The site is simply too small. It's ledge behind it. It's not even close to the size that we would need to put a fire station, number one. Number two, anybody that goes through there in the morning, myself included, when I'm dropping my son at school, it is so congested with traffic. We'd be completely boxed in. There are pedestrians nonstop between the kids coming and going. That's a danger. And I honestly believe it would interfere with both schools' emergency plans. And I'm not going to get into detail on that, but I know that it would. So that is simply not a site that would be feasible whatsoever in my mind. We also looked directly across from the high school. There is town-owned land there, and we're looking at that, and I believe KBA is going to look at it. However, I think a lot of that is wet as well. We would have to have an emergency access road probably out to Thayer Street, because we can't, if we had a fire station right there, anytime the school gets out or an event up here gets out, we all know what that traffic is like. We have to respond. We can't, you know, whether it's a fire, or emergency medical, we cannot sit in that traffic. We need an extra way out. Again, that would be driving that site work, the cost of that through the roof, if we would have to do that. North School has none of these issues. The site work at North School, with the exception of taking the building down, which really has to come down anyway, there really appears to be minimal site work required. North School is a very attractive site for us. So at this point, I would respectfully request the board, because we're beginning to move in a rather a faster pace, and this is going to continue to move faster, I'd suggest that the board begin a fire station building committee, because at some point that question is going to come up, is, you know, when we begin looking at our options, whether we can rehab either station, or if it may be cheaper ultimately for the town to build a new facility. I would suggest a committee of 5 to keep it workable. I would suggest the 2 elected members that the Abington Fire Department has, which are representing our internal committee, should be on that. That way the fire department has full representation, and then if you have 3 members of the public not affiliated with the fire department, I think that's a fair and transparent mix, but I'm going to yield to your decision, you know, whatever you think. My goal, and I'm going to be honest with you, is to be able to present an article at the next annual town meeting on this. And that is a rapid but attainable time frame. And the reason for that is, I believe the longer we wait, the more any of this project is going to cost, whether it's a new building or rehabbing what we have, or even taking down either of the public schools. The longer we wait, that cost is going to go up. As well as the longer we wait, we're going to continue to put our employees, their health, their safety, and truly their dignity at risk. And when I say dignity, I'm talking about the restroom situation, to be honest with you. I think this really does have to be addressed. And once we get the feasibility study, which should be done probably February at the latest, should give us enough time to kind of figure what direction we want to go in. I think it should be attainable. It is a short time frame, but I think the need is there. I'd like to have this fire station building committee in place by January, if possible. It's the end of November now. I'm not sure what your schedule for December is, but hopefully over 1 or 2 meetings, we could get this going so that in January, we can really have this newly formed committee hit the ground running. We'll bring them up to speed as to what we have discovered and shared and try to turn it over to them. If you have any questions or...
Chief, I give you a lot of credit on everything you presented tonight, and I'm glad that your staff is here, and I think that's very, very supportive. And I would, if somebody wants to make a motion to form a committee, I'd certainly appreciate that.
Don't let Jim make it, because it'll make it 11 members, but
Yeah, well. Oh, which one will? Jim? No.
Will the meetings be catered?
Wasn't me. I do have some questions.
Yes.
Talking about, making the marriage of the health department, building department, how many towns actually do this now that you visited?
We saw a couple of them. Not necessarily all those 3. We saw some with the building department, and I think some with the health department, but not necessarily together. There was one other town I know, in one of the proposals when we were going through it, I'm going to have to research what town that was. We're one of the first ones to be doing it, but I think this is going to be a new trend.
I'd be interested, would that increase more traffic to the site? The newer schools, like you said, if it's 5 acres and it's 2, is that going to cause more of an issue with parking and employees and stuff like that? Is that going to just hamper down the site more or no?
We had this exact same question about 2 hours ago at the fire station, to be honest with you. And we're not architects and we're not site experts. Site experts meaning the required parking and so forth. I don't know. We're looking at it.
That's part of the feasibility study.
Correct, yeah. The feasibility study is going to come up with that.
There's no conclusion on that, yeah.
And I imagine adding that, I guess, is KBA, are they going to be looking at whether it's like an all one floor facility or multiple levels, or is that automatically, is it going to be multiple levels?
Probably going to be at least 2 levels. Some of the ideas we're looking at now would be, if you can imagine a 2-story building, the fire side, if you would, let's say it wouldn't be 50-50 because our space would be larger, I think, in those 2 departments, but the fire administrative on the first floor, the fire living quarters on the second floor. The other side would be the building and board of health on the first floor, and then the community training room on the second floor. And then from that would be the apparatus bay.
Yeah, because I've heard, and I guess your expertise in this, is it true that they're trying to move away from 2-story fire departments because of the fumes going up, or is that just so they just separate in the bays, basically?
The bay is separate from the building completely. There'd be nothing above the apparatus bay. It's almost a separate wing from the building.
Okay.
So how would you slide into the pole, down the pole to the station?
There's no pole, Jim.
What?
No, it's a pole.
I'm going to defer to the committee whether there's a fire pole, because I can tell you that has been discussed.
Slide.
And there are brand-new fire departments that do have a pole. I was actually surprised at that, and they have worked out fairly well.
Can we get one?
I'm not ignoring you, so I want you to know that, so.
As far as if we move to a new facility and the technology and clean the gear and whatnot, would that require us to get more gear? Would that be included with the facility, basically? Because I imagine you can't come back and it's not going to snap a finger, be washed and cleaned, and if you're going right back out the door. Is that going to add more gear to the mix?
No, not gear, but there would be some equipment that we don't currently have, such as newer extractors and just some of the equipment inherent in a new station. Some of the equipment we have at the fire station now that we recently purchased both from grants and whatever we could transfer.
And that could become part of the borrowing, too, couldn't it?
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would all be included, correct.
If I'm not mistaken, the state set aside money for extractors, too.
We don't qualify because we have one.
Okay.
And we actually got that from a grant anyway. That was from remaining funds from a federal grant. We are cost efficient.
And is KBA looking at, are they coming in as far as free reign and looking at the town as a whole, or are they being guided to basically specific sites just because the land use and what we know best?
North School is one of the sites, but we are asking them to help us find other sites as well.
Okay.
And, for the most part, it's kind of up this end of town because we can reach most everywhere from there. And we're also keeping in mind, we really don't know what's going to happen at Southfield. Because if Southfield, for some reason, whatever the next plan is, begins to develop, that's going to change the geographic center of this town. And we'll be right where we need to be for that.
And and as far as if we do one central fire station, that'd be getting both other fire stations would be closed, it'd be literally just go to one fire station. Wouldn't
Yes,
need the
I
other
think
two.
so. And then at that point, those properties could be deemed as surplus properties and then sold and perhaps add to a tax base as well.
Highly collectible.
Anybody? Young lady, want to come up? Yeah, you have to come up.
See yourself on TV.
I didn't want to have to really give you a choice, but.
How you doing? Hi. Wendy Happel. I live at 40 Adams Street. Please don't make sure you come to my house if I have a fire. My question is, I just wanted to know, I kind of wanted to ask privately, but there was more questions that I had that since you started speaking. So with the RFPs, you said that you received 5 of them? 6 of them. Who was the decision maker? Was it just you, like the fire department, or did the selectmen or town manager have anything to do with helping to decide?
The fire department as well as the town manager's office.
Okay. And are the RFPs made public that we can all look at them now that you've already decided who you're going to use?
Yep. I believe so, sure.
Okay. And then I just wanted to say one thing too about the surplus committee. I was actually on that committee and I never conceded at all that we should tear down those buildings, because I definitely know that the buildings can still stand and be used for either living quarters or fire stations or anything else. So I just wanted to make that a point. And then the other thing I wanted to say, I think it's a really bad idea to have the building department and the health department leave town hall, because they're closely associated with, at least the building department is, with the planning department and the assessor's office. So now you're going to have people going to 2 different locations to either pay bills or, get explanations on things when they could do it all in, one place at this time. And, sorry, I'm a little nervous. I wrote down some stuff as I was hearing it. And, okay, repeat public. I was going to say the Folio. Can that be used for the Folio gym for any of your training purposes? Because it's huge, it's unused, and that was just, just throwing it out there. And that's it. And if you are going to be making a subcommittee, I'm going to put in a paper to be on that. And I would also just like to say 5 people is good, but maybe 7, because the last subcommittee that I was on, there was 3 out of the 5 of us that were really for moving the fire department. So I think that just having, and I live in the neighborhood, so, that's why I wanted to be on it. And then there's people that were related to, fire people. So I think that we should maybe expand that group so that nobody's closely associated. So it's a little more even. That's it. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for all you do.
Thank you, Wendy.
Mr. Chairman, if you don't mind, if I can just answer a couple of her questions directly?
No, I don't mind. I'm going to answer one of them because I know KBA had this idea and probably, you and your members of sharing it with the Board of Health and the building. I just think I want to commend forward thinking. And that's all I want to say. But yes, you can answer.
A couple things. I'm going to try to remember Wendy's questions here. I'm going to go in reverse. That's why we said that the membership of this committee should be, if it's 3 residents not affiliated with the fire department. We're trying to keep this fair. I agree with you. And again, we're trying to keep the committee smaller so they can move somewhat more rapidly. A lot of times, good luck with the 11-member committee. But sometimes they just become a little slow, that's all. Using the Folio for training, I think it was. The only issue is, again, we have to park the apparatus, and that's a tight area. The Beaverbrook School is in session half the time. We don't want to distract from the children down there. Parking on Washington Street can be tough. The school has their administrative offices there. So it's tough. We've actually been using North School for training, and it's worked out wonderfully. It's been great. Your last question was, trying to reutilize North School. I am not an engineer or an architect. However, we did learn a lot from when we did the high school project. And The high school was built in 1960, the old high school was built in 1962, and that was deemed really not economically feasible to reutilize that building. A lot of times it's cheaper. North School is twice as old as that. North School was built in 1933 under the CCC projects back then. I really don't see that being repurposed, certainly for a fire station. We could try to make a new station, try to look like the school, I guess, I'm not sure, but I really, we've been through that school many times. There's actually been a lot of damage from last winter in there, from what most people may recall. We had some broken sprinkler pipes in there from the freeze. So the building's hurting. The building's in tough shape. But again, this is what the study's going to show.
Chief, did you, you mentioned some of the fire stations you looked at. Did you look at Duxbury?
Not yet, but I'm familiar with Duxbury. They just redid theirs.
Right.
Their
A
main.
while ago, right? They did an addition to theirs, right?
Yep, they did in addition, yep.
Yeah, okay. Just wondering.
On this committee, it would be you, 2 firemen, and 3 residents, you say? Would you be a voting member of that committee?
Would have to be an odd number, so probably not, probably just to help oversee it.
That's my question too.
Yeah, sorry. I got no problem with that, if you want to go with that.
So it's 5 plus the police, plus the fire chief.
Fire chief, yeah.
Plus the fire chief.
You can add the police chief if you want to.
Yeah, that was
That probably
just-
wouldn't go over too well.
Slip of the tongue.
With him not voting,
Yeah.
if that's what you want. So you're looking at 5 residents, or?
Yeah.
What's the population in this town?
I think we get the people who put in for this. I think that would-
I would just, well, I'm just gonna make a recommendation that we go with the fire chief's recommendation. I would make that vote.
Make that motion?
Yes, I would.
I'll second.
Second, any further discussion?
So that would be 3 residents, 2 firefighters.
And the chief.
Non-voting.
Non-voting.
I think we
Well,
should have
only
more
2 residents if Wendy's on there.
I think we should have more residents. I'd like to see
Wouldn't,
more.
like, I don't know, I just feel like you would have kind of, I don't know, everyone's gonna look at you and say, oh, I don't wanna cross the fire chief, if you're on the committee. So, I mean, do
I
you
don't
have
think there's,
selectmen on there as well?
I don't think there's any more important person than
I agree
the
with
fire
you.
chief to be
I
on.
get it, but I just think that there's gonna be 3 to 2.
You can amend it.
Basically,
You can
because
amend it.
the fire chief and the other 2 definitely,
Yeah.
and the chief, but the chief will be able to give, a lot of direction and, his ideas of what he may want.
The fire department actually would be outnumbered. We'd have 3 residents and 2 firefighters.
Right, 2
I'm just on it
firefighters.
to
You're
help
not a-
oversee
He wouldn't
it.
be
I
a
mean-
voting member,
Correct.
so. Any further discussion?
Say it, guys.
I mean, I've personally had 3 residents just from the North School area that said that they're gonna put in for, so I could see this, there's gonna be a lot of, I just think we're shortchanging a little bit. I think we should put 5 residents.
5 residents, 2 firefighters, and,
Fire chief, so we'd have
and the
7
fire
voting
chief.
members and then fire chief being a non-voting member.
Are all 5 members, citizens gonna be from the North School area?
No.
We need a good
I'm
mixture
just
for
saying
sure.
that there's a
Sounds
lot
like
of,
it.
you're gonna get a lot of people that are putting in from that North School area just because.
Well, I think you're gonna have a lot of people putting in for it anyway, so, no matter where they're from. I'm hoping anyway, but. Can you wanna adjust your motion, or do you
No,
wanna leave
I'm
it?
fine with the chief's recommendation,
Okay. right.
I mean, we took his recommendation that the buildings are in crappy shape, and town meeting took his recommendation that we need a new fire station. And so far, so good. It sounds like the KBA, I just like to say Castle Booze Associates, KBA, It sounds like they made a good choice in that, too, and I like the fact that these guys are going out and visiting the fire stations. And you spoke, it's an innovative idea, it's something new,
It is.
Just
I
maybe
agree,
try,
yeah.
and if it means that the Board of Health in the building office is gonna be open more hours, then I'm all for that, so.
All right, there's been a motion, you seconded it. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye?
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
No? Okay. There you go.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Appreciate you taking your time out.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, can I ask what, for the record, what the vote was on that specifically?
Can you what? Sure.
What was the vote?
4-1.
Okay, and who was the dissenting vote?
I just want Whoopi list.
Kevin?
Will we have this on the agenda next meeting?
I
I think
will,
you should post it now, and
yeah, I'll coordinate with the chairman for whatever meetings to make sure we have, you have selections in place for January.
Who's that? Who's the chairman? Oh, me.
At the moment, you.
Very good.
executive session too.
Hey, Chief,
Guess they really don't care what you have to say, Rick.
will you give me a call?
I'm used to that.
When you get a minute sometime?
I can go home and get that. I don't need to come here. But thank
All
you.
right,
I'll be brief.
let's see.
Christ, the Lions are on it too, I hear.
Number 8, Town Managers Report.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, on December 2nd at Town Hall, the Planning Board will be holding its site plan review, special permit hearing for the Buds Goods and Provisions, which is the retail marijuana proposed operation for 1540 Bedford Street. They've already gone through their public hearing that was necessary, public outreach meeting, as has Green Harbor Dispensaries, the other licensee. They have not scheduled their planning board hearing just yet. So that is on December 2nd. After that hearing, which may take multiple sessions, it's to be determined by the planning board, they still need to get approval by the Cannabis Control Commission, which could take significant time too. I'm told perhaps 3 or 4 months, even after the planning board and the applicant reach some conclusion. So that's coming up December 2nd. The other one is to follow Green Harbor Dispensaries, but that's as of yet unscheduled. And our Mass DEP has awarded the town a Sustainable Materials Recovery Program municipal grant. I don't know, get that? I'll repeat that if you'd like, so.
That's for recycling of mattresses.
That is correct, recycling of
Do
mattresses.
you know how that program is going to work or not yet?
Not quite yet. This is the first time the town will have received one, but I just want to, thank Marty for his efforts. As you know, he's working very hard to nip away at our waste stream to the extent that he can. And I've recently started exploring the updating of our streetlights to LED. We have over $100,000 budget for street lighting. So as a significant cost factor, looking to reduce those costs, going to LED would be helpful. That can be done really one of 2 ways. One would be for National Grid just to do it. The other way, which is more traditional throughout the state, is for the town to actually buy the fixtures, amortize those, that we have control over the streetlights themselves, LED. So this isn't new. One of the reasons I've held off a bit is because a couple of years ago, we entered into a net metering agreement. So until that was up and running and we have a good idea as to what the impact and the timing is of our credits every year, I didn't want to be premature and throw too much into the mix. So that's moving
Does the Sage
forward.
Committee have anything to do with that, or have they been involved with that at all? or-
They haven't been involved in this yet. And the Plymouth County Advisory Board, I'm not sure who's the member at this point or the alternate, but they have their next meeting on December 5th. And they're seeking to make sure that they have somebody there. Is that you, Jim?
Yeah,
Okay, very good. You sound so enthusiastic about that.
dragging him with me.
Right, so.
Must be a free
And real
meal.
quickly, too, on December 12th, our RFPs, our responses are due on the police operation and management analysis. So that's December 12th at 2 o'clock is the deadline. And that's been posted in the Goods and Services Bulletin, as well as sent to the firms that had been identified by me and members of the board.
Is that good in service bulletin, is that accessible through the internet?
Yes.
Can I get a link from you sometime?
I'm sorry?
Can I get the link from you
Sure.
sometime?
Be happy to. And the other thing, we're in the midst of our internal budget process, meeting with the Finance Committee again. A week from Wednesday, we've been meeting all along with our staff, so internally, we've been reviewing budgets, meeting with department heads. So our goal is by, on or around the 1st of December, to have an initial budget proposal, which really is more of a compilation of budgets and projected revenue at that point. January 1, we would hope to have a more realistic budget proposal. And as you know, that's, how realistic that will be is to be determined. And that's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
One last thing. Key fobs still don't work.
Yeah, we may be looking to replace that entire system. We may be seeking funds this coming year, because that's, seems to not be getting better.
Nope.
And again, I'm sorry about that, but it's more
It is what it
technical
is.
than I can handle. So, and Wayne's been working with it, but it's,
Will you just ask Wayne to call me, please,
I'd be happy to.
if you don't mind?
Not at all,
Excellent.
not at all, no.
I can chat with him just a little bit about it. Doesn't mean it'll be fixed.
No, but
Maybe he'll fix mine. Maybe not.
Does yours work?
Mr. Chairman, a couple of things, if I could.
Sure, yeah.
I know that some town employees had asked about pay for military reservists. Will we go into, maybe look into that, or maybe have the financial officers group look into that? Or, I would like to have the financial officers group look into it if we could, maybe give a recommendation. Or would you think maybe the finance committee should do that, or?
Well, I think there's two things, there's two separate issues there. One is a new state law, and Chief, if you're familiar, I know you've dealt with this a little bit in terms of research, that would provide for reimbursement or service for time difference between their service, what they're spending, the military pay, and their full pay as it would be with their town, whatever the town department is. That is, sure, has that been passed yet, do you know? I think it's still pending. Yeah. Right, and the other program, I know you speak of, Ken, is that the one that would reimburse the town for the pay for anybody that was a reservist that was called to duty, the straight pay for up to 3 years, as I understand. That is, that would be for any employee in the town. And as we discussed, that does not contemplate overtime, filling shifts, et cetera. So,
Well,
we can certainly look into that if you'd like.
I just didn't want to fall through the cracks. We've been asked, and I'd like to do due diligence, at least to follow up on it, to see, you know, what the cost would be, if it's
Yeah,
feasible.
And I think that's what has to be studied. I mean, in that, and maybe aware of this, is it's not a decision that this board would make anyway. That would be a vote of the town meeting, correct?
Correct.
Am I?
That is correct, yes.
Right. So, I mean, yeah, the finance committee or somebody should be
Right.
maybe
Well-
presented to them, you know, and carry on.
Well, I know that the financial officers meet.
We can start looking at that if you'd
I
like.
appreciate that, thank you.
Yep.
All right. Do we have any time frame for a status report from the subcommittee for the legal service, bids for legal services? Oh, look at this laughing. I don't even know who's on that.
Me and Jim.
Oh,
Yeah. We don't have a time frame.
Well, we can do an update. We can definitely do an update on where we're at.
Okay.
We don't have a time frame on when we'll be done, but
No,
at
that's
the
fine.
next
Just
meeting,
wanna-
if you wanted, we can update where we're at.
How many do you want us to bring forward? We can bring 3, 5.
You can make a recommendation if you have one that's a click, you know, or you might say, the last one, I basically said, it's not worth it,
Yeah.
you know, so you guys could say that right now. Anyway, and the applications for town manager replacement are being accepted now. It's on the Beacon website. It is?
Correct.
It is, and that's being, there's a time frame for that? Do you recall what that was?
I believe it's the end of December.
The end of
what the
December,
committee-
okay. And they'll go directly to the town manager search committee, who's now is a full slate, so they'll be working on that. So they have a plan in place as to when they're going to be doing interviews. So do we have next meeting dates? I know
We are
it's
suggesting the 16th of December, middle of the month. And we do have some appointments scheduled for that date.
I will not be able to attend on the 16th, but, I mean, if we,
Another good reason to have the 16th, Ken? Is that-
well, no, I mean, that's fine. I don't,
Yeah, no.
I'm fine with anything after the 12th. We should have the RFPs back by then. We can make a decision.
Why are we doing the 16th? Can we do the 9th?
It's a suggestion,
9th, 23rd.
because obviously heading towards the holidays, it's going to be difficult to.
23rd, I'm not around.
Christmas week and New Year's week can be difficult getting people together, so that's why.
Did you say that we already have appointments scheduled for the 16th?
We have something. What do you have?
What license renewal?
Okay, we're planning on license renewals on that date, yeah. And again, keeping in mind that the 23rd and 30th are likely
Yeah.
difficult to get, so that's a suggestion,
I
16th.
will be gone the 23rd.
Can we make the second Mondays though?
The night?
The 9th?
Second and fourth usually.
Yeah, second
But the
and fourth.
4th, that puts into Christmas week.
Put the RFP.
If you want to meet twice, if you think we have enough business to handle, we can do the 9th and the 16th. We can do 2 in a row like that.
Taking the night.
That's all right.
And it's a large meeting, it's before you being.
Oh, for the Summer Street project.
Just write her a check.
Thank you for reminding
Want
me.
to do the, oh, yeah, that's right.
I'm not going to be able to make the 16th, but I mean, obviously, well, you know, so meet when you want to meet.
Is it just the 16th? Like, could you do the 17th? Or is that you gone for the week?
Nope, I can do any other day except for the
We can do
16th.
the 17th, that Tuesday, I can do that, that works.
I have no problem with that.
17th's fine.
You want to do the 30th?
Oh, wait,
end of the month?
The 9th. No, she said the 9th is something scheduled, correct, Nancy?
In this room.
In this room.
But for our agenda, we have something scheduled on the 16th?
16th is when we have at least tentatively scheduled the license renewals.
We can push it to the 17th.
Or we could push it to the 17th if we wanted to, correct? Huh?
Yeah, those aren't public hearings, correct?
Correct.
Correct, so you could.
Okay.
So 17th, fine?
17th?
Fine by me.
Works.
You'll be here, right?
I don't know, I'll say yes for now.
Thank you for testing that.
Say yes
17th,
for now.
very good.
Again,
Mr. Chairman, I got 2 things if we could, real quick.
No, go ahead. You're not that quick, 11 people on a committee, you're not that quick.
11 people. The center in the North School, any way we could put this on for just an update? I don't know, it's kind of confusing where we, the actual status of these buildings, where we are with them. You know, are they surplus, can we sell them, are we just an update on them?
Right, well, they are surplus. They've been turned back to the town by the school department. The study committee has looked at the surplus study committee and determined, well, I'm sure, who here was on that committee? There's been no specific recommendation at this point. There's been some talk about looking at the center school as some sort of redevelopment for housing. But the status of that building in terms of its infrastructure and ability to be redeveloped without being raised, that, again, that's an architectural decision. As far as just selling the entire property, again, that ultimately is a decision by the Board of Selectmen, but that would be a town meeting vote first. They've been declared surplus, but there has to be one more vote of town meeting to then allow the town to dispose of that.
Is in, I guess with the surplus, all the surplus property is the same thing, or are those further along the center?
Yeah, those are all set to be auctioned, which should happen in the spring.
Okay. And
Happening when?
But going back to what you're saying, is I would love for someone to take a look at the center school, but there's no funds to do it, right? To see if
Right,
it's-
I know,
mean,
as the chief mentioned during the analysis, the feasibility study for the fire department, that we should at least have some reasonable estimate of what it would take to demolish each building. I mean, they're basically the same exact building in different
Right,
locations.
but I'm also thinking about, is it worth it? Are the bones still good that it doesn't have to be demolished? It can be used for housing, senior housing. I mean, I'd love to get an opinion on that, but I don't know how to do it, so.
you know, I don't know how much money we're spending on these for maintenance, upkeep.
Actually, very little at the moment, very little.
I mean, you know, there's, and the other thing was, I mean, a couple local towns as well. Is there any way we could get an update, maybe from the building inspector or the department heads and department buildings, just the condition of them? I mean, we've seen in In Plymouth, we've seen a couple issues with their buildings. Looks like in Marshfield there was some. Just an update on the condition of town buildings. Seems like those towns, maybe we should, bring it up and talk about it and see if there's any conditions that we maybe are overlooked or that, need attention.
There used to be a permanent building committee that looked at all the town buildings.
I just hate to see it go, unnoticed or unchecked and we have an issue.
Well, we are very diligent about at least locally at Town Hall and Library. As you know, we're doing HVAC upgrades, we've done flooring upgrades, we try to keep them reasonably up to date with paint. So the internal mechanisms in these buildings are pretty good shape at this time. I'm not sure the fire department can say the same.
About the fire tonight.
Right. And again, as you know, the police department's only 10 years old, but we can seek some updates for the board on town buildings, that's fine.
Okay.
That it?
Yes.
Anybody else? All righty. I'll entertain motion to enter into executive session pursuant to MGL Chapter 30A, Section 21A, for the purpose of discussing strategy with respect to collective bargaining with the Abington Police Union, as an open session may have detrimental effect on the position of the town, and not to return to open session.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Second. All right. Roll call vote. Kevin?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
Ken?
Yes.
Tim?
Yes?
Tom? Yes. All right. Motion to go into executive session. Thank you all.